Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists. Hello, I'm Dango Rose, and this is the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. In this week's episode, we hear from Dan Maedke. He's going to talk about the ham radio licensing class happening at the Gold Hill School this week to teach this potentially life-saving skill.
We hear this week's music mentions from Jamie Lammers, and special correspondent Maryann Rosen will share the final story in our 5-part supernatural story series for the month of October, leading up to Samhain and Halloween.
We also get an update from Brian O'Donnell about what's happening at the Ghost Town Disc Golf Course in Russell Gulch. And for our final story, Jamie will talk to Josy Rosales, a local roots musician and music teacher who is performing at the Jamestown Mercantile on Friday, November 3rd.
But first, some news from your neighborhood.
Save the date for the Nederland Thanksgiving potluck scheduled for November 12th from 12 to 3 p.m. at the Nederland Community Center. Enjoy a community feast with friends and family to celebrate the kickoff of our holiday season.
This Friday, folks can do their part in helping to preserve local history by attending the second annual silent auction, benefiting the Nederland Historical Society. Go to Hub Ned Friday, November 3rd from 6 to 9 p.m. for a night of fun and festivities to support our town's history. There will be free food and drinks, and the Historical Society is still currently taking donations. For more information about this event and the organization, go to NederlandHistoricalSociety.org.
As we move into the cooler months and begin to turn up those heaters and light our cozy fires, make sure you take a moment to first check and maintain all of your equipment to ensure it is safe and in proper working order. Check and replace batteries if needed in both your fire detector and carbon monoxide detector, and be sure to double check ventilation systems and clear those chimneys. Every year, more than 400 people die in carbon monoxide-related deaths due to a lack of ventilation, and home fires almost always double during the winter months.
The Eldora Mountain Resort is hiring for the 2023-24 winter season. If you're looking to join the snowbound team and to enjoy all the perks of working in Eldora's winter windy wonderland, apply online at eldora.com/jobs.
Read more local news and feature stories in print and online at themountaineer.com.
And that's it for this week's news briefs. If you have something to share, you can send requests for submission to info@themountaineer.com. As long as it meets our community standards, we'll be sure to include it in a future episode. Brightwood Music has been serving the Peak to Peak region and beyond since opening in 2008. The full-service music store offers new and used instruments and will even repair the ones you've got. Go ahead and check them out on Facebook at Brightwood Music. Brightwood Music is the best music store with altitude across the Peak to Peak. Now for our lead story. Cynthia will speak to Dan Maedke. He's going to talk about the ham radio licensing class happening at the Gold Hill School. Listen on how to take part and possibly learn a potentially new life-saving skill.
Hi, Dan. Can you start by introducing yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about the class?
So my name is Dan Maedke. I am on the chair of the Gold Hill Town Meeting, a nonprofit that supports the town of Gold Hill. We are hosting a ham radio class, which is an amateur radio class on November 4th and 5th. It'll be located at the Gold Hill School, and it's free to anyone 10 years of age or older.
So, Dan, tell us what a ham radio is and why it can be so vital in an emergency situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of this kind of comes out of the 2010 fire and then the flood shortly thereafter. Thankfully, I was not in Colorado yet at that point, but it was quickly realized that during an emergency, communication is very challenging. So a ham radio is basically it's an amateur radio. It's a handheld radio that you learn to use, and it will work when the internet's down, if you don't have cell service, if there's the normal communications, even like the reverse 911 calls, sometimes those don't always go through. Ham radio gives you a backup that will guarantee to get you somebody. So it might be just a neighbor, a couple valleys or ridges over, or it might be the fire department in the next valley, or it might be a trucker out on the highway. So it's depending on your location and depending on what you're needing, you can almost always get a hold of somebody, and then it'll also have the ability to get updates from like Boulder County. We'll put stuff on there as well. So it's a backup that's nice to have, and that's part of why we've been kind of pushing it in the mountains here, because we've seen downfalls with internet and cell phone service and all of that. So a ham radio is just a nice backup to have in your back pocket.
And the class is 2 days, correct?
You're correct. It'll be 2 days, so that'll be November 4th and 5th. This kind of started as we were trying to run this program to teach some of the school kids here in Gold Hill. My wife is a teacher at Gold Hill Elementary and has been for quite some time. So we finally just organized this class and put it out to the community, and we got a whole lot more response than we thought we were going to get. So this may be something that we start doing regularly, but it'll be a 2-day class from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then everybody kind of runs it a little bit differently, but what we're hoping to do then is set up an additional day later on where you actually take the exam. And there'd be some kind of fee involved, and then you would get a license. Like you said, I lost my notes, with the FCC. So what we're going to do is we're offering the class so you can learn everything about it. It's kind of the history of ham radios, the introduction to what the radios are capable of doing. And then we'll leave it, as of right now, we'll leave it kind of open-ended if you would like to go out then and find somewhere to actually take the written exam and get the license.
And there's a benefit to having as many people as possible in an area that know how to use this technology.
The way these kind of work is the way we're seeing them work best in the mountains anyway, is kind of like a community network. So what we did is we built a small antenna. The guy teaching this class coming up helped us build an antenna with the kids. And it's just some copper piping that just helps catch signals of different ham radios. So there is a limit on the range. So depending on where you are, you may need an antenna, or you may need to figure out who else in your area has a ham radio license. And then you just you'll get your call sign, and you'll kind of plug in and figure out how to use it and how it works best for you. Some people like it just as a hobby, and some people like it as emergency only. So it kind of depends. But this class will be the introduction into what are you allowed to do with this first level of license, and what are you able to do?
Is there anything else you wanted to add before we go?
I'm just saying I'm excited. We didn't expect this. Like we put the class together. We were trying to just get enough adults to justify hosting a class for the school kids, and suddenly I have 20 plus people signed up already, including myself. This is a really a reassuring option for us folks up here in the mountains, of knowing that if something happened, we had a fail-safe at least.
Thank you, Dan. We have more information listed for this class and many other events on our online calendar. You can go to themountaineer.com and follow the prompts. We will also include a link to the information in our show notes.
'Cause you are worthy, you are bright.
Now we go to correspondent Jamie Lammers, who will be delivering this week's Music Mentions.
And now, for this week's Music Mentions. Head to the Canyon Tavern located at 32138 Highway 72 in Coal Creek Canyon on Saturday, November 4th at 6 p.m. to see Kyle O'Brien performing live. Every Wednesday at 9 p.m., the Diner Bar Ned hosts a karaoke night. Be sure to head to 121 North Jefferson Street in Netherland to check them out for yourself. Head to the Gold Hill Inn located at 401 Main Street in Gold Hill on Friday, November 3rd at 8 p.m. to see Gasoline Lollipops performing live, on Saturday, November 4th at 7 p.m. to see Faux Paws performing live, and on Sunday, November 5th at 7:30 p.m. to see a tribute to Lucinda Williams. Head to the Gold Hill General Store located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Friday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. to see Esoteric Earth performing live, and on Saturday, November 4th at 6 p.m. to see Carly King performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Wednesday, November 1st at 5 p.m. for an open mic night, on Thursday, November 2nd at 7 p.m. to see Andy Mann and Eli West performing live, and on Friday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. to see the Josy Rosales Bluegrass Band performing live. Head to the JKQ Barbecue located at 200 Gregory Street in Blackhawk on Friday, November 3rd at 6 p.m. and on Saturday, November 4th at 5 p.m. to see Dewey performing live. Head to Nanda Group Brewing located at 250 North Caribou Street in Netherland every Sunday at 5 p.m. for a Jazz Sunday night. Most Sundays at 4 p.m. the Millside Inn hosts an open jam. Be sure to head there at 44365 Highway 72 in Ward to check them out for yourself. Head to the Caribou Room located at 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Netherland on Friday, November 3rd to see the Brothers Comatose with Rainbow Girls. Doors open at 7 p.m. and the show starts at 8 p.m. And finally, head to the Very Nice Brewing Company located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112 in Netherland on Friday, November 3rd at 6 p.m. to see Dr. Jim's one-man band performing live, and on Saturday, November 4th at 5 p.m. to see Mountain Reverb performing live. Did we miss you or your performance? Want to submit your music listing in the Peaks Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear.
Thank you, Jamie. Now let's drop in with special correspondent Maryann Rosen, who shares the final story of our 5-part supernatural story series for the month of October, leading up to Samhain and Halloween.
October, a time of crisp fall air, apples, pumpkins, beautiful colors, and cooler weather. A transition from the last gasps of summer and early fall to the colder, darker, late autumn leading into the turning inward of winter. The end of October is the halfway mark between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice. It is a time when nights become darker and longer, and a time when nature is dying or going into hibernation until spring's rebirth. A fitting time to honor the lost harvest and the dead. A moment to recognize the goddess who enters her incarnation of Crone, the Earth Mother, the wise one, who gives advice, guides us, and teaches, along with the stag, the god that dies for us so that we may live, and to also be grateful to the last of the corn and grain harvest. Samhain is a more than 2,000-year-old festival that does all of that. One of the 4 Gaelic seasonal festivities, it signals the end of summer and harvest. Samhain is a time to acknowledge the end of that harvest season and prepare for the darkness of winter. It is a transition from the light half of the world to the dark half, a time to embrace the changing seasons and venerate our connection to the spirit realm, a time to honor the dead and our ancestors. It is believed that the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead is blurred at this time, allowing supernatural beings and souls to come into our world. The festival is a powerful reminder of the cyclical nature of life and death. As such, Samhain is a time also to acknowledge our own transitions and set intentions for the future, to let go of the negative and celebrate all of the positive that will take its place. People who wanted to welcome the spirits of those departed set places at their table for those souls. Altars were also assembled using incense, flowers, plants, food, photos, feathers, and heirloom items to honor ancestors' spirits. It was also common to see fairies at Samhain. Heightened spiritual energy is felt during this season. It is an opportune time for divination and prophecy. Tarot readings and dream interpretations are popular methods employed to seek guidance from the other world. Seeking insights into the presence of or offering a connection to unseen forces that influence our lives is a common pursuit at this time. At gatherings, there are rituals intended to divine the future of those gathered. Putting sprigs of rosemary and silver under your pillow is a process used to see what is revealed in your dreams. During the period of Samhain, which runs from the evening of October 31st until the evening of November 1st, bonfires were lit in order to both guide good spirits, ward off evil ones, all the while providing warmth and protection during the darker nights. Traditionally, people doused all fires within their home on the 31st of October and relit them on November 1st using the flame from the communal bonfire. This was believed to bond a community. Another traditional observance to extol the season was the offering of sacrifices to Celtic deities in hopes for a good winter with enough food and no lives lost. Dancing, music, feasting, and nature walks are customary. Wearing masks and costumes, carving scary faces into turnips, and walking around your house counterclockwise and backwards before sunset were all conventional ways of confusing and scaring away evil specters, or to not be mistaken for one. People would leave out food to appease spirits traveling the earth. Over time, some began dressing as these unearthly beings in exchange for similar food and drink. Leaving saucers of milk out for creatures called cat siths, who resembled large black cats, was believed to bless your home. Mythic witches tended to have cats as pets, especially black ones. The lore of cat siths held, and these two ideas merged, forever associating black cats with the supernatural and spookiness. Another animal connected to Samhain are bats. These eerie creatures of the night were believed to be harbingers of death. They were attracted to the insects, who were in turn attracted to the bonfires, and thus became linked to Samhain. Cornucopias in tribute to good harvests were set out and used to decorate along with calico corn. Apples, a symbol of immortality, were also included in many traditions. Common games played were bobbing for apples or hanging apples, spinning them and trying to catch them with your teeth. Apples, along with hazelnuts, which are a symbol of divine wisdom, are both used in divination practices. There are many theories about black and orange being the colors correlated with Samhain, but one of the more common is that the colors can remind one of bonfires in the night. Everything seemed to change a bit when in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III, in a bid to make the holiday more Christian, designated November 1st as a day to revere all saints. November 2nd became All Souls Day, honoring the dead, and October 31st went on to be All Hallows Eve, which then eventually became Halloween. After that, many Christians stopped celebrating Samhain. However, most traditions actually remained. These traditions were brought to America by colonists. In America, All Hallows Eve was a time for parties to solemnize the harvest, dress in costumes, read each other's fortunes, and tell scary stories. Music, dancing, and feasting endured, and American pagans held witches' balls. Games with apples continued to exist. Some with donuts were added. Decorating with cornucopias and calico corn remained, as did carving, not now turnips, but pumpkins. Wearing costumes and going door to door turned into trick-or-treat, the candy element growing in the 1950s, urged on by candy manufacturers. Bats and black cats persist in their association with Halloween. Is it any wonder that interest in apparitions, spooky happenings, and eerie events rises during October? Today, most people celebrate the modern version of Halloween. A very small group opts not to engage in the holiday because of its pagan origins, prophecy, divination, and beliefs in ghosts. On the other end, there has been a resurgence in some areas of honoring Samhain and going back to its original roots and traditions. For some, a combination of Samhain and Halloween is how they commemorate the holiday. So, however you choose to celebrate, I hope that you have a good final harvest, a wonderful winter, and a great Halloween and Samhain. Stay cozy and warm.
The much anticipated Taste of the Peaks is available on newsstands across the Peak to Peak. Be sure to pick up a copy to find your favorite local eatery. And don't forget to share it with friends, because a meal share is always better than Betty Crocker. You can also view the guide by going online to themountaineer.com.
Let me out, won't you let me in? Caught on you in a cardinal sin, and my hands are tied to long blonde hair, and I'm tangled up. You're halfway there, and you're
And now, we have a quick chat with Brian O'Donnell with the Ghost Town Disc Golf Course in Russell Gulch. He talks about winter play options and a little bit about how the course got started.
Hi, Brian, and welcome back to the podcast. Can we start with you introducing yourself?
Brian O'Donnell, owner and operator with my wife, Bethany, of the Ghost Town Disc Golf Course.
So with the weather turning colder, are there still people coming up to play the course?
We do get people through Thanksgiving, usually, who are playing fall golf. And it's a beautiful time to play. The ghost town really changes at this time of year. The aspen are off the trees now, but the cottonwoods still have leaves on them. And it's not so much the color in the trees anymore, but the ground color at this time of year is just so beautiful. The browns and yellows. It's a great time, really, to enjoy the ghost town course.
So do you usually have people playing year-round?
With the seasons changing, obviously disc golf is an outdoor sport, although there are enthusiasts now that play year-round. The ghost town course does stay open occasionally, depending on the weather, each year. If there's a lot of snow in November and December, the course usually closes down until spring. There are years, however, that when we don't get any big snowfalls in November and December, the course does stay playable year-round. Although the amount of traffic that we get falls off dramatically once the weather changes. Only the hardcore disc golfers come out and play once it gets cold and wintry. But the enthusiasts are so enthusiastic about playing disc golf. They do come. We did have a group for many years that would come on New Year's Day. It was a traditional thing, and no matter what weather they were facing, they wanted to be the first people to play the course on New Year's Day, the first course round of the year. And I remember one year that they came, it was so cold, they had a bottle of some type of whiskey with them, and the whiskey had turned to slush by the end of the round. It was so cold out. It was below zero, and they were out there playing.
Brian, can you tell us how you got into disc golf?
Well, I lived over on South Beaver Creek Road in Gilpin County in the 1970s, and the cabin that I was living in bordered national forest. And one winter, it was around 1975, there was a young lady, she was the Midwest Frisbee freestyle champion. So she was the type of Frisbee person who catches between the legs and behind the back and does all types of tricks with spinning the Frisbee on their finger. She held a course at Nederland High School that winter called Frisbee. And when I say course, Nederland High School back then had adult courses over the winter, like computer, cooking, things like that for adults to get out of the house in the winter. And so her course was in the gymnasium. I think it was on a Thursday evening. And my friend Roger and I saw that she was offering this course, and we were like, wow, that'll be great. We can get out of the house on Thursday nights over the winter and go down in the gymnasium at Nederland High and throw Frisbees. So we took her course, and it was like a 5-week, 6-week course or something. And on the last night of her course, she said, and tonight we're going to go out behind the high school and I'm going to show you Frisbee golf. And that was my introduction to the sport. At the time, there were no discs, there were no baskets. The sport was in its infancy. And people with Frisbees, because it's no longer played with Frisbees now, it's played with plastic disc-like. It's a cross-section between a Frisbee and a discus. But at the time, there were no baskets and no discs. You played with Frisbees, and you just made up targets. And you'd hit a tree or whatever the designated target was. Well, Roger and I were so enthused over it. The very next day, the cabin that I lived in and owned at the time bordered national forest, and we went home and set up a course, and I've been playing and involved in the sport ever since.
And tell people how they can make a reservation to come up and play.
You can reach us at 303-582-3083 to make a reservation. And we are by reservation. Our course operates a little differently because we're our reservation. If you went to a course in Denver, for instance, a public course, the sport is so popular. If it was a good weather day, there would be golfers on every tee box, and you'd be waiting for the next tee to clear before you could tee off yourself. The way we operate the course, we take reservations on the half an hour because the Ghost Town is such an extraordinary course. It's historical and just beautiful nature, that we try to give everybody a half an hour in front of them and behind them so they can enjoy the course fully, that they don't feel rushed, that they can just take their time and really enjoy the Ghost Town course.
Thank you, Brian. I hope there are plenty of clear days ahead so people are able to play and experience this one-of-a-kind Ghost Town disc golf course.
After all alone down in Cherokee County, eyes of fire and a long fur coat, her teeth could carve a mountain. Tracked her steps to the light of the moon, but she disappeared without warning. Heard a voice call behind my back, a ghostly sound. I hear her howl.
And for our final story, Jamie interviews Josy Rosales, a local roots musician and music teacher who is performing at the Jamestown Mercantile on Friday, November 3rd.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lammers, and this week I'm here with another special musical guest. Do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
My name is Josy Rosales. I'm a local musician and music teacher living in Boulder, Colorado, and I don't know what else to say about that.
And I hear that the Josy Rosales Bluegrass Band is performing at the Jamestown Mercantile very soon.
Yeah, that's right. So November 3rd, that's a Friday. I've played there a couple times before with other bands, but this is the first time I'm doing my own band. So yeah, should be a pretty good time. I love that place.
So how exactly did the band begin?
Well, the show is under my own name, so it's Josy Rosales Bluegrass Band, and that band is not really a band, it's more of a conglomeration of different musicians that come in when I need them to, so it's just me kind of like putting a band together and being different. For a couple of the shows I've done, I was living in Wisconsin before moving to Colorado. I also did some shows under the same name there with some of my friends that lived in that area. But yeah, I've been playing music since I was very young. Started playing guitar at 8 years old, where I grew up in Venezuela. Moved to the States for college. I actually attended school. I went to university in Boston. I went to Berklee College of Music. So yeah, I graduated there, started a band through college. We played rock music though, kind of like jam band stuff, Grateful Dead, Allman Brothers type deal. That band lasted a while. We all moved to the Midwest where I was living before moving here. That was last year. And ended up getting really into bluegrass and moving to Colorado. After that, the former band ended. So when I play shows here, it's more of just getting some of my friends together here that I like as musicians, some of my fellow musicians, and playing shows with them.
So would you say you're into all kinds of music then?
I wouldn't say it like that. Well, I'll say it like this. I like roots music, and by that I mean what attracted me to bluegrass in the first place, which is the style of music I've been playing recently. I guess I will go like a type of roots music because it's got like this really deep history and it's very authentic. But there's many styles of music that follow that same kind of archetype, I will say. And that's kind of what I'm into because, I don't know, there's an honesty and an authenticity in that I really enjoy. So for example, I used to be in a reggae band and it made me feel the same sort of way that bluegrass makes me feel in that way. And same thing when I play the jam band music. And mind you, jam band music is kind of rock, but it also blends a lot of different styles like jazz and bluegrass and country music. So I really like Americana music for the most part, you know. Although as a musician, I guess I do like all kinds of music. I'm open to it.
Were there any musicians that influenced you in this direction?
Yeah, the Grateful Dead probably was the biggest influence. Jerry Garcia was probably the musician that influenced me the most. Was obsessed with him for a good amount of the last decade of my life. That's sort of how I got into bluegrass, was through the Grateful Dead, since they blend a lot of that. That was Jerry Garcia's background. I actually also play the banjo, which was also inspired by hearing Jerry Garcia play the banjo. I don't listen to the Dead that much these days, still do sometimes, but I've just kind of shifted my focus more and more into bluegrass.
And what's your favorite part about being able to perform live and share these songs with an audience?
I guess maybe it sounds generic to say, but the connection with the audience is probably my favorite part. I know a lot of musicians, I know a lot of people that are more into it for their own sake musically, and by that I mean maybe they enjoy more getting better for themselves and they don't care much about performing as much. Not that they don't like it, but it's not their focus. They just want to get better. For me, it's all about putting on a good show for an audience and making that connection, and I really feed off the energy of the crowd wherever I play, you know.
And what do you hope that audience members take away from your shows when they come and see you?
I just hope they have a good time. Well, you know, by a good time I mean that can mean many things, right? Like if they want to just get drunk and dance, that's fine. If they want to have an emotional time with the slow tunes, that's fine. As long as they have a meaningful experience with it, that's all I care about.
So do you play originals or covers or a mix of both?
Yeah, a mix of both. You know, in the style of bluegrass, there's a lot of traditional tunes and classic tunes in the style going around. So there's a lot of that going around. You know, a lot of times in this type of music, you might just kind of, depending on the show, but someone might just call a song that some of the members haven't played before. And as long as it's simple enough, everybody can pick up on it and we can have a good time with it.
Do you have a favorite part of the songwriting process?
So the funny thing is I went to school for songwriting. I have a degree in songwriting. And what I discovered doing that in college is that I don't really like songwriting very much. I like having songs that I've written ready to go, you know what I mean? Like after it's all said and done, I like performing my songs. But the actual writing process is kind of painful to me. It's not very fun. Maybe there's something there about me not liking what I write and just being obsessive about it. But I'd say I like maybe like 15% of the material I write, and that's what I keep. Most times when I sit down and write, I just hate what I do and end up throwing it in the trash. So
your favorite part is being able to share the final product with an audience?
Well, maybe. I will say my favorite part is actually getting the moments where it works and you actually write a good song, which are rare, but that's what makes it special and good. And that's where good songwriting is. Not everything you write or make as an artist is going to be your best work. It's the opposite. Most of it is going to be not your best work.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I'll say it's nice to be performing in Colorado. I only moved here almost a year ago now, coming up on a year, and there's a lot of great musicians here, especially in the bluegrass scene. We have a really nice, healthy scene, so it's nice to play some shows here and be breaking into that. And the other thing I say, for this show, I'm going to have a pretty similar lineup to two shows that I'm going to have the week after. And those two shows are going to be really special because we're performing the music of All in the Way, which I don't know if you know, it was Jerry Garcia's bluegrass band where he played banjo. So we're doing a tribute for All in the Way. One's going to be November 11th. Same band is going to also play an All in the Way tribute up in Rollinsville at a brewery called Howling Wind. Little great brewery owned by really great people. So yeah.
Thank you so much to Josy for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. If you want to see him and his bluegrass band performing live, be sure to check them out at the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Friday, November 3rd, 2023 at 7 p.m.
That concludes this week's episode of the Mountain Air Podcast, where everybody's listening.
Visit our website at www.themountaineer.com to read more information about today's guests. Pick up a copy of this week's print edition of The Mountaineer at newsstands all across the Peak to Peak. I'm Dango Rose.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. Thank you for listening.
You name it, we got it.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local peak-to-peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.